Eye n'Ensoko TV oboroso bw'umugusi.
Mwanchumu woligereria BW'ESEGI TV, karibu sana naenda sense mega ya kabere unanachika kukumanya nkwana ya bene ngo chakira sigika keigo kire busite chinga kibono chekire ukwalika ninandengo gwakira mbiyo monase okogendra gutubwatia hasense mega ntuchiko sanga mange unanachika kukumanya hayo agendra tesiko ENSE ande mono ESEGI hayo agendra tase ensemo ya Middle East nabamanyi bane bagesiasa ase studio kundi taraso asense meyo na gutukura basogeria tumanye ngaki ewiki yabo ya chakire gikagia chire tutarawomera nase studio no tore nere yang maranga daktari karibu sana na bugo sangana into tumanye ngaki wiki yawe ya chakire ande gikakiara bero tarasanga se studio
murali ambia mona naenda so kondangeri turakwana abera tatu wiki mbia nsire weekend mbia yerete and looking forward for a good week ahead.
Karibu sana nase okoboko kwaye gukorio no tore nere Mr. Onchari Oyeyo karibu sana mubwatani kurwase ekiombekeri kia Center for Africa Progress na boigo humanyi bo mangana igage siasa sentu nentanganya bwikirana se chi studio chitu boire karibu sana buko mukwani mugusi no mancho muligere
ntina kiru ya soko ndangeliga nitukoria na litangani wiki ya ndo chimbiye chagete ono lende tikatusange ndo zimaranga boire
karibu sana ntubata mange to gosanga ayu agendrete go to affect one way or another buna abana inchi nande muna sorongorwa Africa kurende taraso ase enkwana ito butukubwarero nande now that we have you here oroboti ndore rogendate gutara mwa ekyombe omubwatani kia bwatokire gekoro kia hemirobiria gendrete ya gesiasa na kiroro ngorwa gusiro gante kuyarigania gusio bochori obano mwaka 2027 taranyore enkwana yago ntubwate chibicha chiane kiwa ntete turaenda se studio akabire turategere enkwana yo kwa bwatu koyo kwane kenga musangete negati abana inchi nabego baruri birengere byabo on the way forward politically ase orongorwa gusi.
The sampling was random in itself, which means, the questionnaires were not being given to pre-identified people. So out of the 3,000 people, we talked to 1,260 said if the election was held today, their candidate of choice is Dr. Ezekiel Machogu. 1,260. That is 42% of the people we sampled. Now, 29.8%, that is 894, 29.8% said if the election was to be held today, their candidate of choice is the current governor, who is His Excellency Simba Arati. Then 12.4% settled on Dr. Kondari, and 2% on Lumumba Nyaberi. 1.2%, of course, settled on the other candidates who I'd call fringe candidates. They've not done a lot of work and they're not very well known. Then we have 12.6% of the people saying they've not made up their minds. So that is under the banner of undecided. So Ezekiel Machogu for 2%, Simba Arati 29.8%, Dr. Kondari 12.4%, Lumumba Nyaberi 2%, others 1.2%, and undecided 12.6%. So that is what we got. And obviously what that means is if the election is held today, we will not have Simba Arati come.
Imetengoso atura senkwana ya itobo tukubwarero kurende ase obwango nabo gutumanyia criteria nabo Gati yabana incha bagemero birikia na getuge mugasanga nabarabo mugikira ase ogosokero botyo
na kirabyo piyesa no muralia bono ekyombi gito tokwanda twaire chi questionnaire ase Gati bono bono twire tuwa studies chi constituency kianda each ward chance 40 esa ne to wake sabu kile ward ya kwa which questionnaire chire ngani ne registered voters chamanya votali ubona makwanya wala kusine para na kwa questionnaire for each ward talinga uko ngopanga random sampling to sample abantu 3 en mara ya kabiri to akoleza ntangani January so ntangani Machogu kwa 39%, Simba kwa 32. Bona after Machogu chita kole radio na Simba na kole ai bona tukaira na rokoboli na kemangana gorte again derete bona Machogu tiro ikira 42%, Simba ndio kwa 29%, which is basically 30%, 29.8. Na Dr. Ndari naye kwa 9% bona ya tile 12.4%. So those numbers are changing, lakini trend ni real tu arolive chinamba chia simbe chiganda tokoraki kogenda anse na endo bone ntuge kubwa tinkelinga bona popularity ya matiange onya gutira ne ya matigo koraki ere gutira so tuigunga simbo ngera kwebanga kwera nasi matiange bona bona utorale mangana ga guchanganyika lakini ase bono iga nonyina bana siasa abande toli kusena babunga ba MCA nyetuli ase matiange bona boja bakongera kisiasa ngera korosi tukuruke wevu yeah so na endo tokole enda sumo tinyo ka tano dio chaka then we can be able to confirm whether the trend now imeshika.
So the ikiombe kino kikumurikana tu siasa bose amangana ndana mango kora survey
to kora consultancy kora tole training alafu kora tole research opinion polling so there's so much that we do. Yes,
thank you so much. Tikabona to soyase enkwana yeito obotko bware togo cha sore maranga manga bere ga konekiwa imena isko yense na ndikora kan commentary nkwana hoye ya kwandika na butora kinto soyase nkwana yeito amanga bere ga konekiwa orogongorwa Middle East so far ntura manyangi kagenda tasing so clear on what is the economic effects na boigo ase appeal yangere kuru ngabono binte bya kongira tokonyango your assessment nechi wikibere chiare what is happening in Middle East
asokora kwane asamagana ndete Middle East and sometimes kato kwana magana we are just analyzing. I mean, I'm not a military expert, but geographically and from the economic perspective, there's what I can share. I hope that's why we are here. One of my amangana Iran, chi Saudi Arabia icho, na chitirumbo to go chega chabo Iraq, go che Israel. We and tobacco beneke and who is the big boy in the region? I want amangana answer it. Kero ya mafile tina, it's time, it's my turn. So now, one of Iran yarigere idi, yare banta mambali kuwa nyege dia bande babera wasani wa America. So it wants to go flex its muscles. I'll give you a good example. A country called Iran, number one during after the revolution 1979, initially we had a good relationship now with Israel. Way back maybe 539 BC before Christ, during the time of King Cyrus. So you can find it back at Oceano. And then, by the way, Iranians, Arab, they're Persians, and they speak Farsi. But generally, the whole region is Arabians. But the unique thing about the rest of the region is they also prophesize Edin Yawa Islam. But Edin Yawa Islam is the Shiites. Then in Iraq, the majority are Shiites, but then to about Saddam Hussein, Orengo Mosuni. There's something called to pick from there. Now, Iran and Iraq, para kunya komunyokan ngoro manenega. Pakamunyokan almost 8 years. But later, Saddam kaigura chigasi alicha chemical weapons. Then the analysis for BW'ESEGI, Iran said, they will benefit anybody, but quickly, Iran against Saudi Arabia. Nkibaku na Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia got magana culture, magana Islam, na war. Na wata Mecca, na wata Medina. So they believe in the region. Amagana enga koyo, enge kero yewo Islam, na war. So ideologically and from the religious perspective, mbali kwe wana na Iran. Now, yama watch now wana sa maganale Israel na Iran. Kera Medina jade achete 1979 after the revolution. One of his policy ata etena Israel yero tokonya sirikuru map. That is their foreign policy. Na Israel yabaraki ekorosu from the map. Wana roja no mo Israel. No ganyerende Iran yego city. Then look at it geographically. Israel is surrounded by all Arab countries. This is what an enemy, but the adversaries. So to meditate. So Wama Konyora, Iran kirete to chekia Israel they don't border again te kora ekolete bichara biaye anganase Israel good example Palestine ne wate group wale gorukuna the Hamas Hamas yeli ego sugumu na bantu bako ku Iran ne rizo yoko basukuma chekia bantu nande babona li jiri yabo ya yobo shite so it's both religious and adversary adversary to sugumera enemy ite ku Israel on the sense nande to babona li religion yete nengire baba train baba so okay
no ko kwa kwandre ase obonga banga batavanga kirogoso Yemen kura Houthis kirogoso Lebanon tupate Hezbollah
yes
but kirotoko cha sore onchario yeyo is it making sense claim kiro Israel batavanga mbafiliting existential threat nero kurwa se Iran ase ngitari tangani ba sagandre Iran nyorese ginere yaringe amatwe 12 bagatavanga abantu abage byombe bagasene korosi egasiene nene yo gotorusi wase map luli Netanyahu nabwate excuse ke valid asogoba threatened existentially
asante sana mangana maranga kwandina barama ya toire history yonsi people na abantu ba Iran batalia barabu anta bangena maitenga barabu they are Arabs by the way which is very good, that's a very wonderful background. Eskero togo cha samangana ya Israel ne view ya Netanyahu by the moment very active in Israeli politics for so long to date way back to 1967 ekero kolege live interviews people na bigo korwa se Iran towards Israel chinze chirichonsi which is around Israel at one point or another ngwanja bale kubarosi molembe Jordan Syria nini they always do that and anytime wakonyora usene militia regali na wakonyora bako ba liwe banda ba attack bako ibintu nebyo now Iran muna marangata they don't share any border with Israel yeah. But they use proxies bako ibintu bivesana those rockets nini every single time they land in Israel they are made by and financed by Iran now a threat ye gogosa Netanyahu it's legit it's genuine because there is evidence anytime Iran yabwata chinguru egotoma these proxies bakoraki balato uko kuwa baita bantu ba Iran so it's justified ngotwara ubobo and every single time unateba Iranian leaders have always said that they to wipe Israel off the face of the map and you know the reason why we have governments they have to make sure their countries can exist without this kind of threat so every single time the Israelis bakoli bara Iran baganda to advance towards the acquisition of a nuclear weapon eba kondoka inyasa iba we equip these proxies babarwani gabago itaba ntaba bakungona kero muntu what if now they get a nuclear weapon maybe ndone binge sana abantu bashia ba mine tunabona there's something called the return of the Mahdi they believe in the return of some superior imam or late descendant ya Muhammad at some point but they have said now before Israel can be before this guy can come back Israel will go like so it means they are committed towards the destruction of Israel so obuwapo bwa Netanyahu mbubwato musingi na Israel yenyeno matabona ne tugekire na aba America so every single time bakotaka kwa libi ni bakora they know they always get the backing of the Americans sababu ne reliye Israel ya very ke kotalera Marekani for a very long time even binge sana vile US abantu wale wate chibe the most of them are Jews by the way of course to work on the US but that is true so they always influence American foreign policy anything Israel to talk or Americans will always find a way to support whether you are Democrat or Republican so because Netanyahu is justified Trump had to do what when you lenga Trump campaign he promised Americans not to take Americans to any unnecessary what but he had to compromise saying Netanyahu mwakete simyaka matavi with or without you we are going to Iran Americans wakaranto gotikara maeka let's solve this problem once and for all what even to be very say Iran is what they didn't expect vuna Putin atebeta nko and Ukraine 2 days na asokire Trump na avugeta kwa Iran asoke ngoja
doreto sange isko ya Middle East but kero tutegareta politically as a Middle East kero kwa na GCC mbara oroki gotaka kuibwatira nesege in as much as they were attacked severally totebe is it a strategic defense way yoko nekenga bakoba involved at the end of the day or ngura Middle East na roko ba affected asengencho chikantri chirichonsi Iran ya attackiri mbara retaliate is it a strategic move politically yoko nekinga buna oyo bado na EYUO na era no agotikara na into kaiga ne jirani ito if we take action at the end of the day into to UCHUMI or we ba maybe threats to US.
I met Clive. Those countries have invested a lot of their money to be where they are. So they are very cautious to protect what they have. Kerwa nyono ne kemonyo ge kere kona wa kone na bage soka na njere dos gidiri naye. Bono mo Iran over cornered. Na mete I mean one on air power, on militarily, they can't match the Americans plus the Israelites. So what a police let's go down. As we are going down with you. Whatever lose. They have a lose situation for everybody. Okay, ngito worker wanaba anta Katari, ningo wata wa America ga base. Dubai ngia ba America ba ko ligiro chega. So what they have done now to retaliate to the Americans, they target the easy target who are their neighbors. It's unfortunate, but that's how now geopolitics are. Wangakire na njiti koko ikera lakini bongo wako mwano yo kyara no mwanchiti. So you can imagine ezo na Dubai. Mete baraka na bia bakemba ine. Banya waka na airport lakini banya waka isiko baraka peliveli. Which means still Iranians know na ki we still need each other in the region. Okonena push and pull until eventually ceasefire. But now nsego deviate akego na bora bolirende ngisere ko gain in all this. Corrosion nuclear weapon needs a lot of research, needs a lot of science, needs a lot of resources. Ikagere ko tewekana for Iranians gutwara with that threshold you gutwara uranium, you gutwara much, they have spent more than 50 trillion. Wachibuki konyora those weapons. But what have the Americans done? But actually systematically go crash those things. What does it mean? They are disarming you. Even to back to square one. One on chaso korokwane kolioke, even to vertical nebi bikebire bi missile bako utabikebikega, yuko again into natora biko kuna harassing. But substantially their threat to wipe out Israel, they are kuniruake. Even to be able to visit the roche, to visit the mountain ime, the America ba roche, the Netanyahu roche na Trump ochire, amaite yeso ochire ngoto konye tole. Kero mete policy ya democracy, bali very aggressive. Kora ira bale ngora. So that's why didn't Obama achide, aba everete na Iran. Ti akoro saving tevi, ti atoba chibesa, tokole biasale bingao. Bakaira ngora. When Trump came, akabata this is nonsense, magana ya turu kunyataka, karu on the table, tikakoroshe bintu. Bali bakenda bago karaki koroshe. So what Israel has been doing, but what intelligence on the ground. Abanda baroshi bintu, they are active. Basakova given a slightest opportunity, batokori. So they attacked them when they were not prepared. That was somewhere last year. Now, Biden yagachira. Kana Biden yaja. Israel ndeka yarangana na ki aba tochega mbaga tokonya aba ndawe region wara togatire. You understand? And true to be it, aba mazimba ngusida Israel almost 1,200 bakabaki boko sana no roche. So the threat of wiping them out nero uno maskate ho yana ki the threat is real. Without playing politics, the threat is real. Kero moja bangena bako ngento le anto bako ngento live and kenenge ko. So that's when Netanyahu said abantu ababagatoida during the Holocaust 6 million Jews died. Yani gotole na miaka yendina anatonse goitwa tekoba. Bakenda on the offensive yani ba compete konyenyana ngo konyenywa. More than 300,000 Palestinians died. So that is the consequences. Yeah, this thing how is piling up.
Kiratokocha sore onchari. Now what is the end game for Israel? Asengenjo Israel bono target Iran. Yes. Iran go retaliate bare. Israel yabere targeted na Hezbollah ku Lebanon, bangere go attack Lebanon. Israel inyora ya target Syria. By the fear of nga Iran go sponsor some militia ku ruwa senseme yo. So Israel is like ekorwa na jise yange ibere isa torimo. Manage will it manage, and what will be the end game at the end of it? Na renga focus ya bene nere.
Thank you so much. But the Israelis, Israelites, but what experience? They are not doing this for the first time. You can remember the 7-day war.
Yeah.
Warwani ilichinsa chi nyingi cha Warabu miaka mingi. Naenda kuna bubu yabo kwa prepare. Deka sungukira na adversaries or enemies, you get to learn not to sleep. So they know. Kera bakurwa no rocha bakurwa ni Iran, bakurwa ni the Houthis of Yemen, bakurwa ni Lebanon, the Hezbollah nini amasiga. They know they've done that before. Israel is prepared for a perpetual war. They're ready for that. Weapons will come from the US. When Americans say what is stockpile weapons, they've been producing, manufacturing out. Now when the Iranians say well, they don't care. So Israel Netanyahu, he'll bomb them continuously. But again, take Lebanon, the American singer to assume control Hezbollah. So they're asking for outside help or control Hezbollah. Middle East governments will come out and say, "Don't get these militias within our soil." Israel called threat Iran, they'll pull back because dealing with Hezbollah will be easy. Hamas, I think it's already taken care of. No, we are bullying about like Marangate Abagaiga, Vanyor, a very good friend in Trump. But we have a free hand to deal with these guys. Anytime they need weapons, they love them. Intelligence, they have them. Mossad, of course, is always better than even the CIA. But they are ready. So whether it takes 10 days or 1 hour, the Israelis are always ready. No matter what Bantava, and it's unfortunate, Islam BW'ESEGI. They came back in body bags here. Abana school to Balabasong. One day to the kind of treatment by Israel. We come kill 10. So you have to be ready. That is how you deal with them. So the Israelis will always be ready. It's by the time I call him Yaka 18, it's a soldier in Israel. When you're Israel, they are ready for that. Yes.
The US. Their first attack on Iran, Babu had at least an objective. You go dismantle the capability, you go build the nuclear weapons. But on this, we don't get the clear objective. Kurwa say US in as much as Israel and Israel are very clear with their agenda. But the US, Kurumura ENSE, the Secretary of State, the Minister for Defense, like the clear objective. Okabako kwa US ngoro kia sese hii
Clive tiga nanengo ntawakega Kirubato mwana wa mokogoti ando mwanjete and it's possible nairo yoben kino monda ko mochegia okora diri na enemy yu waje ngona gi ya wana ngiyana so amasikani ENSE koroko Israel na America ere in eternity. America will never ever blame Israel because number one, Baba understand it as very located geopolitically. Bamba etena America mi amiga Israel kuruswali. So inga nagi nimba the big boy. Wanchagia kokorwani dinga kokorwani odiasoime talikobod tokorwani. Warode. Tinde tinge beke render with that simplicity, but the truth from where I'm seated near na ki by the time Okoromo America whatever to so keep it to make a Middle East, it's not 1+1. There's effect in economy. Warade. Abantu bari nekagere namba bwate bintu biri. Ora batigere weapon eri. Mbago iterenda abana bari barusiga. Bintu biri tayirande kurutara America. Etarget ya bono mu Israel. Na America nemete na Israel utaranye kuna uikatora wo. What the implication yerega? Aba America bako bara rochali as long as it takes, as long as Trump a president. Mark you, umwano Trump, mwajaruka nga yasoget. Israel. So yokero kuku no Israel, Trump ko na ki ebiragi tebi mbegete ga ochimedi nande ngibigo kora. So aroche. Ne policy mu America clear order. When the president has communicated na abantu balinde to have attacked, that's it. The interest come. What about Kabato eviction Naki, Montorino, they'll deal with you. Babo Calvata, Venezuelan candidate, Diana Maduro, Nero Gataki, drugs in no authority. They went and picked. ngoborities nobody warade Moscow na kwa naiga ingasi America ne lise no gosona janga ingasi America no korosi ebintu byokurwana. That is primary nini pabirosi pabion bondi gibi baichorire bakubona ki no bokwere Ukraine kwanza korabe minyoke Israel benefits through grants and donation. Number 1 in the world nabakora nyora military weapons from America to mwame akonyora the rest. So that tells you naki umwanori is their strategic person in the interest yogotigaki yokorwana Middle East ile osoko nyabaga Middle East ile nyitike na ereberamo it will create a problem in the world. So ningi babeguru montoro go busy ocho de Saudi Arabia yemete na botoko baba sani bia toko Iran. You understand? Wanda Jordan what the Jordan umete inu the Jordan nto akanyona mali tikata wamo. So that divide and rule Israel has succeeded to exist because that block teliamo.
Yes.
A block iliberamo again is Israel na wa Congo kutoka in the region.
But again, as you also mentioned, Umunyaroka or Trump, no answer geta sense media, and by the way, the son-in-law is one of the advisors.
Yes.
Magana again rete ensemo ya Middle East. Keto kocha sore oyeyo. Is it now a moral authority ya US go participate in these things outside the international laws, because many of the things here via vaire biribira against the international law. But then at the end of the day, this is now the big boy. Nobody questions. Mbabata moral authority, yoko make decision on themselves, but are involved the United Nations, for instance, the National Security Council, the UN Security Council, so that by the time Bako and Abuna mentioned Venezuela, now will pick a president of a sovereign nation, and nobody questions. Maskani.
Again, take tangani kora jaba asante sana maranga mangano kwa na veira maya sana. Kintokire tokoro international relations.
Yeah.
Again, take kero keligere buya ngorukere permissions ama chingaki ekere ense buna US yote kero kwaso ense yende koruana. Kinteke tangani when there's a humanitarian crisis. Kuna mwana toza bose gato chake koruana keka kabisa togo itana gato itana manyinga. The Americans can come in, not even the Americans. No, everyone nyike bwate chinguru na bago chaka igabaro bali bakurwania abantu babeke kando. You know, when there's a humanitarian crisis, that kind of intervention is allowed. Again, to kende when the national interest of a country is at stake. Funa bano go se Sudan tonyora terrorists bago chaka igabaita abantu bamye go chigali. Our armed forces can be sent even without consulting the UN, because our people are dying. We cannot wait unity with Saranza, which is a toothless bulldog kwa amua. We can send our forces there. Find bale tawada gali bali bantu bale kutonavuna alishababa koleki taken care of chi sababu nyora chireinye. So Americans bakora lika bakwana baisarance saying any kind of law, any kind of resolution Americans will present as a UN Security Council, either the Chinese or the Russians will do what? Veto, because they have veto power. So koira gali into discuss with UN Security Council is a waste of time. It does not happen. This well nailed. Is the US the moral police of the world? The answer is yes. Okay? Even the Bako Kora, the Russians cannot go to stop Iranians go to Kotarovsky nuclear weapon. The Chinese cannot do that. Of course the Iranians can listen, like in the Chinese very tough. China wajitega iga South Sudan, abantu bawitana kabisa manyinga witaka chindoje, lakini barabona mafuta bakoke bakoli. They don't pay attention to that.
So in other words, say chinkwana chawa watavanga by the way kwa yero ka toothless bulldog
UN.
Does it mean now
abantu bakwetega 1 million Rwanda 1994 genocide? The UN was there. We saw it. So you cannot expect so much from the UN. We have presidents, we have history. So nigen to kende ndara pola soko konacha. Iranians are about nuclear weapon. To already no bago ita Israel yine ntanga ndige tugia kabere toto babona ba 12 maskani ba 12 robo mona Israel bali korwana. Do they have the mechanism yoko protect nuclear warheads nchiganda ase terrorist groups ekera bo oro kiringa ko na bale bachi yaki support baru wa Israel enga bona North Korea maita bantu bakangusana na North Korea kanyore nuclear weapon. Now even attacking nuclear ni North Korea is a problem. So this wali bawo bantu bawo be bold kera bantu ba foreign policy bawo isaranza bakole boli how safe the warheads in North Korea. So unkibara tigere Iran ike that kind of level. But no matter when nuclear weapon hakuna survivor. Why should we get there?
Kirotoko cha swali marango, your word on this UN and on the United States taking action on their own, like they are the big boys. Now wago cha ENSE innovate order pairan, like they make decisions. Are they bigger than the UN and the international laws?
They're the big boys, or they're the big boy in the room, and a policy are very clear. Their interest comes first. Aba America wako kama mbata wana ki East Africa say to interest chao janzira conflict yuko mwanzi kokaraki koligira ni amaisa talimaya. They have done it in Nigeria, they have done it in Nigeria. They have said in negora mugonga ntumara abantu kuruga. It's basically saying na wanda acha nengira mafuta kuruga. So what I'm saying, aba mama judge bali keroko roso yi bichara bya base interest chao njiro. Maybe mbamba ete kumpate tukuruana. Mwa America go plan him to be 20-30 years ahead. Even the to plan sometimes say to today. You just plan today. Mwa America about the stockpile sham after era morani into generation. Kara go so already Venezuela, you gonna have time after we come where. Kara so the Afghanistan, we carry we carry oil. Yani that the interest. Na ba kuruana, lakini on the process you kuruana. But on this one specifically, from where I'm seated, let Iran act now. America tago tabana bana wansi nyirena atige tago tiga. Mosugumana ni numeraros. They can print money. They have enough stockpiles. Each weapon and everything. No. In Jesus Koligere. Iran should say they want to act now. After all, you met in international politics or international relations. Nobody is a permanent enemy. It's interest. It's possible today Iran and Israel can be friends based on the interest. But so long as interest, policy, Israel must be wiped out. Israel comes back and again, to wipe out. So that thing will always be there. One on the economic side, the challenge is Iran is one of the greatest importers of our tea. Sometime last financial year, they took about 60 billion worth of majan. So is one as a region, we might start stealing the pinch because one of majan we taken to almost 7 countries, whereby Pakistan and Iran are the greatest importer. But in that disruption, Nigeria to kill in order to answer Amafuta now we they call the area Strait of Hormuz. In the next few days, we might start feeling the heat.
I'm not going to mangana the economic impact. Nabuko kwa mentioning ENSE Kenya na Iran batwa robo amatu ya sana. I remember even their late president Ibrahim Raisi na korete taro sense Kenya tara sirio bogima buae. But tora so ase ensemo ya economic impact. US has been the key factor say okorento moremba se chisegi chigenda, let's say now to mention Russia, Ukraine, negati Israel, the ensemo ya Gaza, Israel na Palestine. The moral authority ya bobono going forward asincho ya roka ninga barabu they make decision on their own. What if Russia na area mueta bobono UN buna tuanya roka the toothless bulldog Russian area muyabone so Ukraine, China can decide in area saga ne Taiwan. You know, bono machika yoko bubeka order taiyo kero montara because Russia are capable, they are the superpower, Chinese are the superpower. Do you think now the moral authority going forward nechikoba affected to chikomba cha kutuara order?
You know, now I can talk one over mine. A decision here what asika SSA yatawa timai not whatever toothless bulldog UN ne what the consequences. Kuna whatever the Russians vuna bai mugate Trump dali motangani kwanda gosaga na Iran without permission was Venezuela ko imoki Maduro ko Iran yoke kumosiba. The Russians got to Ukraine litangana bakana cha Crimea bakarabe ko mubuko when Obama was president. Kido ngora higo bakaswaralia bakaswa Ukraine imebona kabisa kera baro chenga Ukraine ngo itake kwa swaki kwa swa NATO. Paka saa hii Putin is insisting Ukraine va promising that they'll never join what NATO. Ngabona ngije sopu ngote weke kubekete gani ngato sakota chumaranga. Oh no, so abantu abatanga Russia as power.
I want us to remember that in the Cold War, the battle was between Soviet Union and the Americans. And the Americans crushed the Soviet Union into around 14, 15 countries. So what we have that we call shell, that we call Russia is a shell, if you ask me. Economically, Russia is very weak. They just have nuclear weapons. Yeah, that's what they have. And that's why every single day when you're around to Russia, and US, they admire everything American. Russian young girls are looking for American boyfriends. They want everything American. There's nothing in Russia. Weapons, and they spend a lot of money on those weapons instead of even developing the economy. And rightfully so, is the Chinese. They're coming up in terms of their military, and of course economically and technological, of course, they're making progress. That is the only nation which can give Americans sleepless nights. Now, it's not in the interest of the Chinese to attack Taiwan. At some point, because of intense pressure of all sorts, political, economic, Taiwan might decide we're doing it.
China.
Yes, because when Americans China Taiwan is saying international law. So the Trump never consequences. But also the Chinese know that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. That's why the Chinese and the Russians have signed by Iran for so long. But when Americans they fall back. I'm after the Strait of Hormuz, 20% of world oil. China. But you see, they've not applied a lot of pressure on the Americans and the Israelis to move out of, because they know nuclear weapons have to be controlled. When the North Koreans missile, it's the Chinese president who usually tells that short guy to stop. So I don't expect China to go to Taiwan, neither do I expect, actually, Nani is looking for a way out of Russia, or for Ukraine, Putin. It was a mistake, it was a big mess. But it's not like the Americans. Americans have got an endless supply of weapons. And you see the Americans are fighting far away from home. For you to attack American mainland, it will take a struggle. The Russians are very close to the what? The Ukrainians. The Ukrainians have been working on them thoroughly. So Putin is trying to move out of Ukraine. So Tali Russia as well Ukraine kabisa. And of course the networks Americans, they'll pump all the weapons they have in Ukraine and keep on training Ukrainians. Russia won in a very big way. And Russia will be the loser.
On the same point, international laws in Trump we want Greenland, like we want it. We want it and so
America kuigubiya kero kibiri busy. One of you create kibiri Russia busy. Very busy. Konya kurwana. Wanto chindi yebira mwana America. Eba kibiri busy ni kanya kurwana. Ndoto nya supply weapons to Ukraine. Baba kibiri busy. Wanto kaya moja kwa living in same Taiwan. Taiwan, I also look at it, for example, in terms of Israel. Taiwan is another Israel island. About America was supported Taiwan because of their interest. Kodiri na China, we could segete. Do you want to attack China? We could make a military base Taiwan. So in America, they had Taiwan. As we are speaking, there are more than 100,000 of our cigars are active from America. Chile surrounded Taiwan. Nada ba kumbyo kijinda kijigoroga ba nyotishana tridi etamoino ba kwa saba ba koraki okunya kokosana. Anyway, what I'm trying to say na keep what is EYUO, what is the end game? That is how it was wired to be. Ntokunyara ko baba sani forever. Countries will never love each other. We will always have strifes. Will be omusani boyo, and that's how the world order is. But the truth is, the big boy will always check on you. America, I know China, Germany, UK combined back number 10. Obeke their total assets of weaponry and the money towards establishing military weapons.
Americans. The League of Nations was formed. Objective the OEU gacha. Kavari branded Nerkoya Natrigo Kirani to what the UN Union do you foresee a future to go to Arabono, to Chako, the brand to an and body and prevent the next war? Because it seems we are headed to World War III.
My speculation is World War III because countries enjoy the consequences of our war. no one when you talk of the weapons, biological weapons. The country has with America, ya kunitia wa Japan ya kego, Nagasaki, Hiroshima. You got to be Japanese, you got to be nega chemical ba kunetu. So, you can't the consequences of using that. Like wako wana wa Iran ya bana wale bwango iga, bara atwale genteke abara keigorere. The other countries of what these weapons. Of course, they're against the UN, what bulldog yao. And power the way they go talk about for non provocation and to self deterrence and talk about Pakistan nebuata, India nebuata, France nebuata, Britain. Lakini jirona ki to tuerendete, lakini ndurukurwani onde. So that's what I'm saying. In my opinion, aba Irani abanya wechanda kunya kurigige nteke. Chibeseji na ba develop their country. Why improve on human rights? Umete Iran ba namba sikili. Ocha bitu street ya na toka biti etukina ndoko rebi ntebi kong na ndo tabodi. So then I wish that Iranians could come to the table. They can be friends, whatever nakia wano. Let's have a ceasefire. They put their arms down and negotiate.
Tikasosha solo nchari bono EYUO ya escalated Strait of Hormuz ya siekirwe and many didn't know until EYUO ya chinari abantu bache ko manyanga akaruti akuno na kaba as tiny as it is
very significant
kakonya then sasa tambe sana chinse njiro gitaria EYUO ense une ya Kenya and lemon chira Africa and the other superpowers. Do you think going forward Strait of Hormuz kego chikogandra usieko we are headed to skyrocketing of the living of especially Kenyans, abantu bara around Africa, bali batari party to the war, but economically.
Kirese gine bwate gentokoro ka collateral damage. Bona bana tota bego sabana kwa ngose irenze kero koro je go bwate mesia ngo banyitiero cia maranga ime ko gwake ngundigo kwa buna litoka lia maranga ibono collateral damage. So kuna ba America bakorwana na ba Iran, of course with the Israelis, the place is going to be closed like it is. If the Americans want, they can apply a lot of pressure. Wakoleki. Isaje igoro. Trump nakuwa nanga mafuta aliyagwetaka aligakwanda China. China gambe naba Iranians baigoleki enchereli. So that is one way. Etaigo iri Americans can go there but age escort ships if the interest is being threatened galiga. One Kenyans asebono igasobo ange mafuta talikomenta lakini iga bana siasa force baje ba keliogi bamentera ba Kenya shilingi bere isatu lakini in the long run ikarbone ko sikwenga kintambi mafuta ya gwetanya ga gwikaga iga guchakayo koraki commenta legally so eventually nabakonyora ikirege ato affect iga so the international community ekara ya ngentiru kabisa ya bwatiru yangere ko embe yangere ko care na bawita kuchaka kubeka pressure babate binjwa semesa mokoliki moiwanane una maranga kwa nagaiga ibintu biri binene Iranians babwate byasalibu obonto bale babwate sai drones nini mboli bonge naende sai pressure babwate no nyino mwana olio amenei igaumiete when statement ya ruya likire we did not see him on video. So the kind of pressure from the Israelis and the Americans on Iran is intense. Persian si baraba ntoiberoli, you know, the Persian kingdom goes way back. Evara veroli sana none kera ndense kwa munachire miyo yata range kukubana na bako abatangu imukande ngwa kenkundi so ngwa korabali until the last minute lakini bako chakobeke pressure buye na bako nyara batebire weapons to atigire saying the Israelis and the Americans will never allow the Iranians to have a nuclear weapon. The earlier they realize that the better bacha baisa ransema chiwe sechu the South Korean sekera batiketa mangana mange baka chaka kokora development. South Korea took off so by chiwe sechu nyinge bako west bakoleki ba develop ENSE yabo. So pressure nature chake ko mount from the international community Irania koleki HSMS and Americans obuye bwa Trump pulling out I'm willing to talk anytime. And ubuna bobu ya
deal breaker.
Ubuna bobu ya bwa Trump is always willing to negotiate. But bono America ko support. Ekero ko negotiate from a point of strength, it's always good. Ko yanda ga neta ya whatever, you either work the way we want ama tolete jitingeti ga chibosi. So it's going to happen. Eventually it will be resolved.
Because the economic aspect, we felt it far away kere EYUO ya Russia na Ukraine ya gochaka umura igwenso mukuru Kenyatta na tetenga nebe muchando bugo kino kwa maguri ya mabuta ne EYUO ile gale. Now these are our close friends anga gaiga do you foresee a situation in EYUO which will escalate? We will feel it at the end of the day, in as much as not party.
No, you yateva. Chinguru chirani ya bwate yo kurute bintu biti. Mejala ko biruto 300 in a day. Watch Israel. Now Israel made a calculated to a medana. Chimi Israel bwate 3,000. One already made a war to 2,500. So they keep on reducing. With the back of those 15 a day. Akinada wana ki chategere chicho kwaras. Chikuru from nowhere, karu to nagi na badon karo. So I think it's also not to their benefit. At the end of the day, Orochawano, they are able to sustain this again, let's say even 2, 3, 4 months coming. I mean, Irani Gira or Terende, Caribia, Biake. Again, to get that commenter, Abora Bodi Naki, damage Koran, Kerende, Israeli, Naki Okara Yake. Abairani about discovered them now. To Soko and Namagana Ijin and Santo Kunara to it about the code. Aba Israel never got that three-layer protection. Now I ran Nabangai. Baku taken to clear rocket, delay personic. Yaso has space. Yakora space, yeah, the Yevisego. Yansa coming your commune. One medical detect or relay the information to the radar Muinogal, radar again to get 900 kilometers, go to watch story. Airdom Yasokia, a rocket, Yam Yokaigoro. When you get on the miss, you go the David Sling, Nara Sock. We never saw Kikuri Chibis and Chiri, Chichet with Jiguri. So essentially, Avanavantuna now, Yata very prepared. Koruhanesegi as long as it takes. So we see who benefits now. So the answer is back to Iran, patch on the drawing table, Naki, Yaya, Matawere. But after all, even to be our weapons, be active. One day, no Yatava, Mo Iran, no Moita, how they badongo Kora.
To other superpowers and other organizations, NATO, the European Union, Babere so restrained ko part of this war. Kurende Babere bagu call for a ceasefire and to make mesa. Trump nate China and the Europe mbabwata obligation yoko ba part of this so that they are now consume mono amabutari na oil ikuru said, but UK, Germany, Spain baroba tayirenga bado ntoraba. Do you foresee a situation as US na Israel go chawika se enge upusha abande bona babe part of it? Because Trump na hata banga bali bago chiko anga they are looking at possible way yoko ba vekera sanctions so that end of the bache MS.
Bueno, ENSE se kubati mwenendo Britain under the Labour Party. The way the Spanish were trying to block the Americans from using their bases and the French. Almost every rogue country will get a nuclear weapon. At some point we need that kind of policing offered by the Americans. When I you remember the war of the willing, Bush at Blair Bagaswa Iraq. Of course there was a mistake. Later on they discovered there were no weapons of mass destruction. Lakini itakeire kaya very verified, because even the UN verified kwamba Iran is enriching uranium to unacceptable levels. Abantu ababugaterana, especially Western civilization, Europe na the US, baso imeba bakora manganayo. The layers of, systems ngeteketanga murangeli monta semeza motebi ni chiba sota na utoko kwa tigebi ntebi kogena ngora kikise wona ka military action. The Britons have misbehaved, lakini ensemo ya conservatives babeke ile stama a lot of pressure bakongira kokaraki gocha semeza. So eventually these guys will now come in and insist na Iran listens. So they'll be involved. Now it's late because the Americans have basically done the major work. So whatever that is remaining, they'll get involved. Trump, I'm sure it's going to be done. The Chinese and the Europeans will talk to the Iranians by voluntarily. Na ndaba wana pressure wacha kwa swani yevuna mheshimiwa Marangate vile wachaka kwa tebinga, you guys are losing. You're losing so much more than you should even lose. Njua sema that giving them more. Candidates will not leave Tehran in shame. They'll smash everything. Iranian Zimbabwe, the Israeli Zimbabwe objective yavo. But I think Iran that nuclear program back to zero. Kabisa. And I think they're like, actually to come 1%. kuruka bwana obonto boko kunya kuruta those shade drones nini boko intercepted, they not mind that. Number 2, those proxies were handled Israel for so long. Boko funded by the Iranians, Hezbollah. So very soon you will see a dry out of all those weapons. Funa pono sai bagan to work southern Lebanon, they're working on those weapon storages, depots. Now that flow of the same weapons from Iran, Lebanon will not happen because the supply is gone. Yes. The Houthis will have to pull back. Their godfather is dead. Hamas, I think, has been taken care of.
Syria, Assad went down.
Yes. So the Israelis are achieving the objective pole too. And I think Nani goes down in history as the greatest, one of the greatest prime ministers Israel has had, Netanyahu.
Maranga, do foresee a case as a Europe, the NATO allies? Because Pedro Sanchez, Prime Minister of Spain, at the time they completely
what the UK
is not willing to be party of. In fact, number to make watch.
In reality, in the ground. Abantu bali abasani. Osani wo America, no mo British. Na by default umuntu kuruko mu Faransa. Mu Faransa banya ko garine isegi nembe bono kike. This is unnecessary. Bago kwana ego for PR, but in essence wali na crash umuntu. Bono na kistamba ko kana kaire jibes na aji kurufuere yale mafuta chama ko soka butuko jaga. Bono ne awata bali mu to abaita for defense purposes. But the truth is, bali they always talk to themselves. Meta basongombe anjete. Enjene bakugwana na bakuligidan maisana ki mwata banol. Enemne yoka manage abanta abane GESIASA. So they manage the politics. But they basonga alibona awada active. Erina chimilitary jisoka. Ando ikomanya na America in the world is the only country who print chibas. Yani zimiwa kuna central bank. So kyango chidora cha printwa. So go back to bring $1. Yeah.
That can be confirmed. As encho nevane ENSE media kero USR ko Maduro ku Venezuela. We expected leaders abange ba criticize that now that was a sovereign nation, but abange ba rokana tata banga.
They agreed.
Regime you kwenye ya
Kenya. Yeah, wana winero gotona lia Mariogo achandira abana boina. But which is true. Mariogo is a big thing in America. Abana balire mesote eli most of them has to combat it.
Especially so, Latin America.
Yeah. So
no, now for Asoko Kodra as a world peace, tukuchakana imarange kwa nago yo mwaya se obore ndio BW'ESEGI because a lot has been happening. Tari Middle East toka tuarada seno na abana abasikari bensi ya Kenya baachire Haiti koreto marembe. We've seen the destabilization of security Europe. What needs to happen now going forward to making security worldwide ngobere sustained?
Onalinde ENSE na berego kedenserego UN ne wata se kwana yako ya tegerero and sometimes we take a talk and even to individual 1 scar konya watu na into maskanita make anto itongo baba exposed anengo utole dola but the dollar is green in the which and the sa kironyi fekere economy na bega time warande. So from the policy level nchengora atabana kinya ba America batalengo ande kangeze tugunchugu left center right.
That is true.
Na basonga hapa then what they affairs the challenge but they tend to gosuma. Other people will say like ngibako the big boys in the region wanya gosuma kerumonto, but the truth is abantu bati ruchi sumuchiri but the sumuli bwa tokwenze we just inhale and die everybody and the country is wiped and the face of art is city. So that's why we're having the weapons with the macheso na busha tabatana Iraq nebwata na bakobwa and Saddam ko yigore Iran hora bakora ki muntu yarato yigore mbegocha ine mbego yigore to the globe ekora abantu
toko jasoro yeyo muri kito gaiga ase egetase ni Soko TV tendeta mangana GESIASA Innocent Onyango agori kagaya batabanga Trump spoke about their superiority. Una to mention he's now questioning affiliated nations of NATO why they have not helped the situation to open the Strait of Hormuz. Abatabanga by only that. Teri admission Iranians are hitting harder.
Olia batabatiga namuendete gushika abo there's an island ekuru the Kag Island 50% ya oil ya Iran ekuru odia wade tuna mugushikaga enje island ilinkwa kangoreki kore naba Iran bagataba nanje ngwire na Dubai abunda ali bintu bili bono nendi na babanya gosuguma naiga paka banyore tupado watongea tumambo itakwa
igono bo mainetari Iran ya kira mono ni is a strategy totebe because innocent yagata style Trump ago push abandi baswana ne it seems inga bakirwe
what I think what he wants to do Trump does not want a flow ya mafutalia akoleki etenene saying so nowadays the Americans and the Chinese are somehow friendly. They are not later really yakabeire so igora nyalbono the Chinese bakoleki bakwanire bategete ko restyle mangana yako era the Iranians babeke pressure batige segiere saying Americans bakolere objective yako lakini kintu kende bagetementa mwana tokolrani
ngonyora muri dake meme ukukora
so Trump is not admitting anything kaka Island yakate abankale metwe bachita bagaka some bases bagate abatuatigira mafuta lakini kai gas storage chimisa liga we to akunire mbaru
we've hit it for fun
yeah so bagate moko gendra bakole bikolie bi will now go and do what clear and of course they have the capacity to do that na Trump dali monto go chiasera akote ngo wakande ngundi otaji kuligereri ngundi asoire mbato so atagete before batake now into full scale destruction the international community Europeans na Chinese bakoleki esenginto nama it American economists bakoleki baisaransi baralire asaya bakogendera ko ye sali ko yerwani mono reconstruction of Iran will take time and that is not in the best of interest of anybody abakwane ikwende na ndipo bana bawita ko gamba bune kwende ye ko igoro Strait of Hormuz it will be the starting point of a longer bargaining or negotiation which ko eriese eseki correct American sekara pa isaranse Trump no yaka kogende sekitali kwa muka tebe nganje bweka nkogenda he consults buna bono kwa roje makorubio na chita kagamba na 8 senators from both parties akaba brief before the attack so they do some kind of simulation ekekera banki yakoba like marangate about they planned 20 years ese gibune ya Ukraine sorry to add an outsider idea ese gibune ya Ukraine ekira toko yeligereli etubugetenga Putin ga imogata kamya ko Ukraine iko kento kile Russia yapa isaranse in laboratories and rooms baka plan 30 years ago una bako seketa Putin asa Ukraine arwani ko bakaya anenze and actually they put him down correct Americans sometimes they can make you sacrifice your own people to achieve the objective so bacha kirenchera yoko leta Iranian SMS egere segia koleki abona ba calculate value to asaliria is fun ya very destroyed completely oyo itiru oyo very lichara you want they've done their job na enda bon turuchira nero to ndipuna ta harassment ko chaka ko rutachi kwende ko chi Dubai you know is an international financial center bangera kora chi bali maybe na wacho chiko salie vintu so they have to find a way out for everybody egera ta be lose yeah
actually the Middle East chabo Dubai chabo Qatar they're really feeling the pressure of business and variations yanzi recover the prices are skyrocketing chance to finance losing of property yani na anyway again take has to go so abantu banda ba America bari in the region wants to kongaji to Singapore, Far East, Thailand because of that pressure because now the uncertainty according ya talking because the region is always fragile one number embulile ngomo sinini kurasa likira one gota inone girlfriend ngomo Dubai na wakora wakani ngaki ya Dubai kora tigate
ngire kujimasa imara matanda chisimba
asa giase ogokorera kurende tigamanyore deke memo yukuri nkwana yo mwerio na voigo komomanya omokenya no mugusi asenye nchone va serikali ENSE ya Kenya witira somo waziri Opiyo Wandayi na tabanga Wakenya ambao bwa ensemo ya energy mbaye bangete entura manyambo maine kibororo stock yaro na bekura balenda kero bagenda tego monitor situation yagendete Middle East
and mete no such things when they happen you got to make to start thinking outside the box one can we are tapping on the solar power solar energy our own oil so that because you never know tomorrow so it's a wake up call for the government that let's also have alternative ways on how we can push our energy because we always have solar all through. We have electric cars. We can put panels. Innovation. Not necessarily using fuel. So that now the electrical cars would be now the alternative. Kia wana mafuta umetena tusumbe tukura sawa ntwale. Yeah, and we pray that things will be fine. Thank you.
Bono mangana komenta sa imaranga kwanira ramaya ibintu mbire tutakire gukora ikintu kitangani keraka agatono gachira sigete ngatakiri gati gukabeki kabeli yote kireme chande yato kira sigete ugo deal nero mapema chinza chinde twatebeti gono muntu oli olekora okumati Luther King Jr. A threat to justice somewhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So kera kantu gachakire gusubura bono tolega iga kamuchando gachakire gose Uganda ndoteba gali alitali seito tema gokonya ese nginje kuna gali ekoyi no yayo ko next. So mangana buna ya Iran angawa ya ruche kale bali bintu bya chale bya sarige to 1979 kero sharu setugwe kero. So American presidents bali bale goche special democrats bagatwara softer policy. So sometimes it does not help. So in a lesson to clan no nyekuru ga na abantu abaitu bale sensemo ya mangana isiko foreign affairs, they have to take care of that. Una so Somali ga ya toire binte bibe sana ya jakito kutwara instability kuru kale toka, you know, we behave like they don't bother us pake ga cheke kabana bago chake bakarake batu itamwe munyo. You remember Westgate was myaka renga nyowa ikiri
kwenye naskiraga
bago soaga iga baita abantu baitu baira na gochiro gali yine kenteke tangani kentu ya kabere. We have to take care of our own interest as a country. Even to be president yako ndanga uchire ko igora rugoro gali ngabantu bache maiga, we've suffered a lot, so we have to take care of our own national interest first. Kentu ya gatatu ikono ko irole regentu maranga kwandese nchekire kia maana sana. Self sustenance systems to tegemea bintu bisiko mafuta bwana buna yaiga ese gibona ga ndreta mafuta na bagotira nye toko nyora mafuta up to around 60% kuchakiraga bona bakonyora manganaki akongire tokanyora mafuta turukana gali kale bakobona bona tunya kongusana nango tokona correct e para squeeze nangira korra chigali chinga sana chikutumia electric power. That is the direction we need to take. Americans, in as much as bona marangate bakobata mafuta manga ko bamnyokana ne myaka yemo, they've gone electric popata EVs chinga sana e para iko kwanda kwa beke gali okwa ya charge gali wasokere wachiri. That is the direction we need to take. So we have to be ready. So our leadership, even with William and after William, we have to have that kind of futuristic thinking, and then we need to invest in areas that matter. Again, to get konya taba Israel buna bale bono igagali again take tangani technology. So investment in education is key, because education is related to technology, is related to intelligence between the beyond, and of course food systems.
Bimano bagani bana si studio amangana iga foreign policy na mangana mayasana ngola ngina ntutu ichinga kitukwa na singi chuna mange ni ritanyora ebiro asingi nchensi ya Kenya foreign policy ya bangi babiri bakonye mochanga tira bangi ya mono abiga serikali ya berege kuegerera neba ne igatia bana njimbare babete recruited bakurwa ndrense ya Russia, but umwaziri monena ikagari ntwaranga ense ya Russia yate banga yaring part of that contract, and we wonder how vainyoreta se ukurwandira ense twa rorere e passport ense ya Kenya na rugo toro muchando ngabantu mbare baire batari baya you raise eyebrows mo director na kon tevinga mbanjire daika mo mwira ria singe ncho mwaziri mudavadi rero na koletari aye asense me Moscow no by the way everyone aba Kenya to watch the Korea. The government of Russia is not part of the contract. We nenda mabodi na ringanga ki how did they end up kovase military ya Russia na Ukraine. Onye ko privy to information
ono kaiga gente kikere very interesting yakero kolige sigia chagete to abate minister ya foreign affairs ole kumutua chibiche cha sokira ale wakachibicha kabisa igana abana abakaika kabisa ote banganga na bali Russia okoraki okolega asi na bali Russia wiki ya meka na soma na soma US. I'll not be scared of saying that is one of the most racist societies I know in Russia. Wanekero muntago kongainanga na bakwanda Russia okolega asi ngao apart from slavery or say we get when a military service we are go kongaina Russian is also a cube gear train baika wansipi what gara imaya buyeka, correct? That's why even as we make a lot of noise against Americans in abantu bange bagwaneze ngechompa manjeti. In the US you can survive very well, you can work, you can do things. In the UK you can do that. You cannot do that in Russia at all. You can in fact live better in China than Russia. Wana bakongainu bakongainu nabantu bana baba mutua aye blame utoko yebeka sama magoro ya serikali. Rute kera chole tu kai kagare wata ya bantu ngango andale koros chigas na ndo temire ndege como much more ne sengi njike ntubune kia for affordable housing, those are jobs being created there. You cannot achieve 100% employment. Lakini nyendi abana baba korosele uchigasi gaiga muntu tayo tegeta kwenda gukwera Russia kera kule no mubiro utaira nabantu batindeke lakini kintu gya kuira abana baisiko ningi gutanyora egasi nkaga eserikali baroseliga egasi nekera abantu aba these rogue recruiters abo chabata komunyo kagaiga no babeso bosini ninga tikankwira Russia wakana 200,000 they should be arrested even before they do that. Weta kugundua abana bachire gale babwate chibunduki bakokwaneluka batamanyiti it's too late. Alafu Russia keraka tebi bakote musadi ngantu ya not part of that agreement ya Iran amo bakole that's a dismissal. They basically dismissed him. He should have been insisted these are our citizens, they are fighting for you and it's not right. How did they get here? It means Russia has a policy. There is no way a foreigner can go fighting for them. Like in Russia and Zimbabwe even the Koreans were fighting for them, North Koreans. Mpaka Ukrainians wakachaka kubapuata wakubapuata waka chibicha basoki akamenya wanchira nanga Koreans ada
na bora chuzi wa watu
kinjitike manyadi ya competent ndamayengi umuzike yakwana lakini ikime trend in politics trend in orange passport whatever jirina you see sometimes abakanyomete but very speculative the passport chira on unique circumstances. I remember if I did my history well kero musikera iro dinga lego utama otraira na jaramogi bata mede through Zanzibar bakayo ji passport bakatame regime ya lengeten tindama nyerera kingo arasedena ki it could be other unique or very interesting circumstances which me and you totally able to understand. Wanurenda barakira bakanya banje tukunya gotani ngitiki so I'm not competent on that.
Na won't comment again to brief this is for the benefit of the president n'abantu bali baye buna baboga ambage bali bakomunya komokonye gasi najita gakora magoso there's a time they made an announcement ng'abantu bali ba RSF Rapid Response Forces ngoja bali kola serikali igaiga by the time bako barangiliga ngoja kola serikali they have been sanctioned by the Americans. Okay. The president was given a phone call by the US Secretary of State comment what you're doing is not right. Saying there's no way you can sanction someone for killing people. Alafu abalenteka kwa serikali. Serikali ya Sudan ya kaya gwete authority shifted to the military under Burhan. So there's no way okwana go support militia. History ya militia yanto ya manyete. Oyo emedit na alenge part of the force ya lego ita this black Sudanese bama ata before the division in Darfur, the Janjaweed. So historia ine manya kaine go chaiga. So ebinte mangananga ho president ngo korali biashara nere bagata gold ba and Dubai ba woni president atike interview ebiko musalali elieta. The money is not so important pako chake go sali passport ENSE.
You know that is speculative.
Yeah, that's why we say it's true.
It's not true.
If it's true, then it's wrong as you said.
So
but the government itself told us the passport has been given issue.
What I'm saying, we may not substantiate.
Yeah.
And no ina yando.
Manchumurigeria togwaka mbia mona soko sanga na inte unatware na mange na ntutu ichinga kitoga ndrego sanga ayaiga na begombia mona sabaga ni baita se studio soko ikirana asiti mwingi mahe ya tokonya koine kamera gine chipicha ngochara senchira ire engia chida kamera ngebere chatigire irage chinsa isano toko kan robot kobia na boigo gan toko twaro borgerio bia bimero beria gan tata sembeo yan soko TV chenkoro kwa Clinton ndiki.